Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted, to address whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. We are here because God is concerned about that which concerns you. And so every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we are here live in the FijiWater.com studio, which is brought to you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer, where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact, until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just water, it's Fiji water. And the good news is, because it comes from a sustainable artesian aquifer, it will never run out. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, we thank you for your support and your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. You can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships. We are here because God is concerned about every aspect of your life. And we don't want you to go without a place where you can hear from God and receive daily divine direction. I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, although we had a little technical glitch at the start of the broadcast today, but that's the internet, so we just have to continue to work with it. I want to say to all of you, we are Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and we're on RadioFreeNetwork.com live. You can click on RadioFreeNetwork.com. The Dropbox will appear when you click on radio. Click on the New Life link, and every broadcast is available to you at RadioFreeNetwork.com. I want to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who shared with me that they have been impacted by something someone said. And you indicated that it really impacted your spirit because, first of all, it was someone that you have a relationship with, that you really expected to be encouraging and not sharing negative thoughts. So you want to know, how do you deal with people who consistently come to you with negative opinions and thoughts when you feel blessed by the decisions that you're making? So let me begin by addressing this. First of all, when people give you negative opinions, you have to recognize first and foremost that it's just their opinion. And everyone has an opinion. It doesn't make them right. The second thing you have to realize is that just as they have an opinion, they also have thoughts. And they may be willing to share their thoughts with you because, first of all, people do things for a lot of different reasons, but when you feel like you're in a good place, when you feel like the decisions that you've made have resulted in you getting to a place that is good for you, a place in God where you feel blessed, and someone brings you a word that's not encouraging or inspiring you to be a better version of yourself, you have to recognize that that's not from God. And I don't care who they are, they're being used by the enemy as a distraction. But here's what we also have to realize, that sometimes people will give us constructive criticism that we have to recognize is God speaking through them so that we can become the best version of ourselves that we can become. But however, that negativity is not something that you need to embrace. So if you know the enemy's using that person, if you resist the devil, I was going to say the enemy, but if you resist the devil, let's call it out what it is, then he will flee. If you embrace him, he'll remain. So let me give you how you deal with people who are constantly negative. You have to be willing to stand firm and tell them, listen, I recognize that what you may be saying has some validity in many cases. However, this is not that. This is really just navigating the environment, navigating the culture, navigating the different personalities that you may deal with along the way. But in the end, you know that this is a blessing of God. And then when you say that, leave it there. And if they present you with a rebuttal, then you have to tune them out. You have to be willing to tune out any negativity. Negativity is nothing but a distraction. Anything that is going to distract you from, first of all, performing at the highest level or becoming the best version of, let me reverse that. First of all, becoming the best version of yourself that you can become and inspiring you to perform at the highest level. Anything that is not going to do that is a distraction. We must reduce and eliminate distractions from our lives. And that is for each and every one of us. We have to learn to reduce distractions that must be reduced and eliminate those that need to be eliminated. So don't allow someone else's opinions or thoughts to become a burden to your spirit. I have said this many, many times over the years because I understand by spending more time in the presence of God and in the presence of the Holy Scripture, I understand that anything that is said to you that does not encourage you or does not inspire you, doesn't encourage you to be a better version of yourself, or does not inspire you to perform at a high level, it's not of God. It is a distraction of the enemy. You know, the devil doesn't have to kill us. You know, he seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. So we know that he is ever present, but so is God. And if God is present, that's the hedge of protection, the wall of protection around you, so that the devil can't get in. And the reason I'm using that as an analogy today is because it's real important that we understand what is of God will encourage you to be the best version of yourself that you can become. And that doesn't mean it has to be warm and fuzzy, but it will encourage you to be the best version of yourself that you can become. And it will inspire you to perform at the highest level. You will be looking for ways to perfect every aspect of your life. See, this is what we missed both in the Christian faith and the walk of the world. What we don't understand is that we are not perfect, but we can perfect every aspect of our lives. And what I mean by that is because it's not us perfecting it, it's God working in us and through us that will perfect every aspect of our lives. So everything should encourage us to be a better version of ourselves, and everything should inspire us to perform at the highest level. That's how we get to a place of success. That's how we get to the place where the manifestation of God, the manifestation of the fullness of God, not only enters our lives, but consumes our lives. So I want to encourage you today by saying this. Don't allow haters are going to hate. Don't allow haters to be a distraction. But there are people who sometimes they're not haters. They're just being used by the enemy to distract us, because greatness requires focus. Greatness does not allow us the privilege of being distracted. You know, and that's what we have to recognize is so important. You know, it is one thing to have success, it's another thing to maximize that success. It's one thing to work or perform and work hard and be diligent, and another thing to perform at the highest level. So there's different categories that we can place ourselves in, but then we place ourselves in a box, which doesn't allow us to exceed outside of those boundaries. So we've got to make certain that we don't allow what other people say to impact or steal our joy, as we like to use, or impact our spirit, which will then suppress our success. So let's make certain that we stay focused on what God has called us to do, and let other people focus on what God has called them to do. And if they try to intertwine the two, then you have to recognize that that too is not of God. And again, I want to stress this, because I don't want anyone saying, well, Pastor Pope said that if you are telling me I'm doing things the wrong way, and that you're being used by the devil. No, that's not what I'm saying, because it doesn't have to be warm and fuzzy all the time. Sometimes we have to really identify the problem, and we have to speak to that problem. That's all of us. However, again, it should encourage you to become the best version of yourself that you can become, and it should inspire you to perform at the highest level. So before I go into the next communication, and let me just say this, this segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. If you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, nor have you been for the previous 90 days, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will place you into our queue so that you can become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So let me do this, because this last communication took me into another thought about some communications that I've been receiving from many of you, listeners and viewers. And one of the questions that has been asked on more than one occasion is about performing at the highest level. You know, what does that really look like? And some of you may not have got it when I said it, so I want to make sure that I cleared this up for you. You know, we don't want to suppress our success. We want to maximize our success. And what we also want is to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. So we have to work on that. Performing at the highest level, there's some very simple things that you can examine about performing at the highest level. And, it is, are we really working every day to be the best we can be in our body, mind, and spirit? That's a question we all can ask ourselves, to examine ourselves. The other thing is, you have to ask yourself the simple things. Sometimes you just got to keep it, simple. So I have a different analogy for the KISS theory, which is keep it simple, servant. Okay? Because we're servants of the Lord. So I don't want to call anybody stupid. So that's the world using that analogy. So that acronym. So I'm going to use that to say this. Sometimes you just have to keep it simple, and you have to think about the little things you do, because the Bible says the little foxes spoil the whole vine. So it's the little things that we do that will spoil the whole vine. So think about it in this aspect. You've got to really look at it from both your personal life and your professional life. Do you take the extra time, the extra steps to make certain that the quality of your personal life is an example of God? It's an example of the Holy Spirit living in you, and an example of being an ambassador of the Lord. Does your personal life do that for you? Then you have to ask yourself, in your professional life, real simple stuff, and I'm going to give you I'll give you a personal example in the personal life. So, I'm one of those people that when I put on my shirt, before I put on my suit, when I'm putting on my shirt, I want to make sure that when I turn my cuffs, they line up with my sleeve, so that, and not just because I'm putting on cufflinks, but because you have two slots on most shirts. And I just want to make sure that everything lines up, so that when I present myself, whether it's in public or whether it's on the air, that everything is tight, not because I'm perfect, but because we're being perfected every day by God. The Lord is perfecting us. And so the next step is, once I put on my trousers, I want to make sure that my belt and my trousers line up properly. Then I put on my tie, and I want to make sure that the tie falls right in the buttonhole of my collar. These little things mean something in your personal life, because how you do anything is how you do everything. It's the same thing in our professional life. Do you show up for work on time? Do you waste time while you're at work? These are things that you can change to become a better version of yourself and become the best version of yourself that you can possibly become. We're all going to make mistakes, because none of us are perfect. But God is perfecting us every single day. So we have to want to be a better version of ourselves that we can possibly become. And we have to perform at the highest level. Performing at the highest level means that you show up for work on time, and preferably 15 minutes early. And that once you begin your day is focused on business. It's not focused on the distractions. There's a lot of distractions out there. Now, that's one thing that occurred during the pandemic, because people found themselves having the opportunity to work from home, and they were enthusiastic about it for about the first 30 to 60 days. And then as the time went by, they started becoming more distracted. It doesn't imply that they weren't distracted at all during the first 30 or 60 days, but they were really focused on the idea of, I'm able to work from home now. I don't have to leave my house to perform my task, my professional task. So people were real excited about that. But then what they found, so, one quarter goes by and they decided that productivity didn't suffer that much for the first 60 days, 90 days. That first quarter of working from home. Productivity was even up for some companies. But then as the year went by, they found out the second quarter of that, the third quarter of that, productivity was off. And the reason is because people started becoming distracted. You cannot perform at the highest level if you're distracted. You can get some things done, but you cannot perform at the highest level if you're going to be distracted. So our goal has to be to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become, and to perform at the highest level that we can possibly perform, and to research and develop and implement skills, tools, and techniques and tools to accomplish that. And if we do that, we're going to find that not only are we going to be successful professionally, but we'll maximize our success. And not only are we going to be blessed in our households, but the blessings will overtake our lives. Because we've become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. And that becoming is an ongoing, evolving process. So you'll hear me talk more about this to address as these continued questions come in about, success and performing at a high level, and, this is real important to the quality of our lives. So you will hear me address this ongoing, but I had to respond to this today because I see themes forming, people communicating, asking questions about specific things, and every once in a while I have to stop and pause and kind of address the group as a whole. So let's make certain that we are really focused on becoming the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become, and perform at the highest level that we can possibly perform. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. If you're in any of those areas, you can stop in at the retail stores. They have everything that a man could possibly need. They have shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. I'm actually in Charles Tyrwhitt attire today, except for my tie. They have everything a man could possibly need. So you can stop in at the retail stores, and if you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And the White Company, located in London, the UK. Located in London, the UK, and they also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. So if you're in New York, stop in at their retail store. They have everything you could possibly need: home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. If you're not in New York, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you are working in the entertainment industry and want more out of your career, and you want to know, how do you achieve that without having to wait forever, for a lifetime? You said forever. Forever is a long time. So let me, first of all, it's very interesting that you asked this question, because my spiritual son has just, one of my spiritual sons has just really gotten into the entertainment industry, and we've been having some conversations about this. And one of the things that he understands is that it's one step at a time. He's clearly got an understanding of that now. He talks about what it would have been like getting to this place 15, 20 years ago versus getting there at this point in his life, because now he understands you have to make God your partner in all that you do. Here's what you need to know. First and foremost, there's no such thing as an overnight success. There is a process to everything. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Even Jesus himself had a process. And we know that because he spent from age 12 until age 30 reading the words of the prophets, sitting in the temple, learning, asking questions, and preparing himself for his ministry, which then lasted for 3 years. I like to use the analogy, one for the Father, one for the Son, and one so that we could have the Holy Spirit sent to us when Jesus departed. So you have to recognize that you're not going to have to wait forever. Forever is a very long time. But you are going to have to wait on the Lord to work through you. And you're going to have to work on your relationship with the Lord in order for the Lord to work through you. So it's got to be one step at a time. So I mentioned my spiritual son who's now just embarking on his career and understanding that it's just one step at a time. You've got to play your part in every opportunity. One of the things you're going to find necessary to do is pray every day that God will open doors no man can shut and close the doors he doesn't want you to enter. So you have to be okay with the pace that God takes you. But your career is going to continue moving forward. And you've had some good parts to date. You really have. But it's not the end. And you're working to accomplish this because it's your desire, it's your heart's desire. The way that you get your heart's desire is to delight yourself in the Lord. And the way you delight yourself in the Lord is to do all of the things that God has appointed in his word that get us to the place where the fullness of God is manifested in our lives. So, it's interesting because I'm seeing more people becoming interested in the entertainment industry, and I've got to tell you, that's an industry that everything takes time. Your career is, you're going to start out doing certain things, and then God's going to take you to the next level. And then you're going to start out doing some additional things, and God's going to take you to another level. And one of the things you've got to recognize is that every level you have to be prepared. So it's really about preparing yourself continuously, positioning yourself for the right opportunities, but take one step at a time and be thankful for each step, because each step is going to allow you to learn something that you will need as you go further in your career. There is no, and this is for all of our listeners and viewers, there is no such thing as an overnight success. Success requires work. Success requires time. Success requires effort. And then success will be manifested by the opportunities that are placed before you. Don't get ahead of yourself, and certainly don't try and get ahead of God. 3D, today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast, has been brought to you by Fiji Water. A taste of paradise will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. May God bless you today. May God keep his face turned towards you. May God give you peace that surpasses all understanding. Have a great day today. I look forward to being in your viewing environment tomorrow. And remember, we are Facebook Live, we are YouTube Live, and we are now RadioFreeNetwork.com live. Also, go to RadioFreeNetwork.com, click on radio. The Dropbox will appear